This video is to illustrate a little bit about the idea of unified process and specifically how to construct use cases to build your project. Normally I spend a little bit of class time, but because we're in a condensed class, I have to be more conservative with our use of time, so I'm going to cover this video. And actually, since I posted my thing about the project a few hours ago, I've had a number of students sending me emails expressing keen interest, which is great, because those of you who want to work in IT, this will put you way far ahead. And it's easy to learn a lot of stuff by yourself, right? You can go on lynda.com or Udemy and take courses on Java programming and HTML and all that. But this is something that is not largely talked about. I learned about this at IBM. I did not learn about it in all my years of university schooling. So I think this will be quite a good thing for you want to get into it. So I'm going to cover a little bit about it briefly now, and if you want to use it in your project, great. And if you want me to talk about it more, maybe we can extend one of our classes a little bit and I can go into it. But the idea here being that when you want to design a system, you have to start by understanding what you want to do. And unified process, and people go and do entire PhDs on it. It's a very deep and rich topic. But the essential concept is you start by figuring out what it is you want to do. So you gather your user stories. And the concept of user stories is that if you're an IT analyst or a business analyst and you ask a user what are your requirements, they're going to be confused. They won't really know what that question means. So you ask them, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones, from the time you come in the morning till the time you leave, tell me the story of everything you do. And as the business analyst, you would take good detailed notes on the systems they touch, the pieces of paper they write on. And I guess that doesn't happen much anymore, but back in the day, they might take a paper out of a filing cabinet, fill it out, put it back in another filing cabinet, mail it or something. So you would keep track of all of the assets and artifacts that they touch, and you would look for ways to turn those into screens. And now, as you're going into looking at your project, you would figure out what does your user want to do. And again, it doesn't need to be a business process. It could be a game or something. But you figure out all the inputs they take and all of the outputs they want to produce. And I'll ask you to go ahead and read this PowerPoint. I think it's pretty detailed here. And the concept here is that the main thing I was thinking about for your project, it's very effective. Think about it. If you want to, in a brief and concise way, capture all of the user's input on the stuff they do, the best thinking that humans have come up with so far is called use cases. So a use case consists of three parts. We have the name of the process we're modeling. We have actors with goals. Actors are not Jennifer Lopez or Brad Pitt or something in this case. An actor is any entity. It could be a human being or it could be a traffic light or something, right? Like a traffic light could be an actor. Why? Because it meets the definition. It's external to the system and it controls what the parts of the system do. And then you figure out what are the scenarios or the action steps of that actor. So let's say you have a call center representative. Customer calls in, so she logs the complaint or the issue, may take more details, may ask the customer to run some sort of a logging tool and email it in, may open a trouble ticket, forward it to to the support desk, and then may follow up with the customer 3 days later. So that would be an example of a scenario. And there's more information about use cases. Go and study that, and I'll maybe spend a couple of minutes in class or kick out another video later, depending on if I see a lot of interest in it. So an actor is anything external to the system. Could be a human being, could be another computer. And some of these notes are written in the context of when I teach system application development. So it's like SAP or enterprise resource planning, where we have computers connecting to other computers. Three elements of a use case. A use case is one unique path of interaction from the system, and it has to deliver some value. So, for example, a customer logging onto a website is not a use case because what's their goal? A customer logging into a website to purchase a book from Amazon is a use case because they have a definite outcome. It is a unique end-to-end path of interaction or execution through the system. And there's tons of stuff I could say, and again, I'm sort of going to wait and see if I have a lot of interest. Maybe I'll set up another 1-hour class separate from a regular class time for people who want to get more into this. So we say, and you may have been exposed in your schooling to the idea of contract-based programming. So a use case is a contract that you as the developer make with the system. You as the developer make with the user. So you're promising the user, Mrs. User, if you do so and so, if you go to this web page, fill out these forms and click submit, the system shall perform a database query and respond in not more than 0.2 of a second, right? So we try and make it quantifiable, and we always make it centric around the user and what's the story they're trying to do. So there's more stuff about interactions of actors with their goals or outcome. Remember what's an actor. In fact, I've had students who've gotten so interested in this, they've gone and written the, sorry, my dog's just in the background there, he's shaking himself. And he threw my attention off. Yeah, I've had students who've gotten quite intrigued by this whole concept. They go and write the certification exam. There's a certification exam by OMG, the Object Management Group, and that looks very, very good on your resume if your desire is to go into IT and get into a development role. And one of the things they would ask you, they give you scenarios and they say, where is the actor in this scenario? Right? So, and if you remember that definition, an actor is something external to the system, like your user, they initiate the system and they get some value at the end. So a database could be modeled as an actor because it could get some value, which is getting an update, or another computer could be an actor because if it's a business-to-business e-commerce situation, the computer system at Walmart could autonomously connect to a supplier and order more delivery of product once their point-of-sale system tracks they've, sold 90 children's shoes that day, their stock is running depleted. They could have a stored procedure that would initiate and a computer would order more stuff. So go and read all of this PowerPoint, please. And in a full unified process implementation, the way it works is you start by interviewing. Let's say I was and I've done this, in previous jobs. You're a business analyst. You go into the client site, you interview all of the users, and you write down their user stories. You go back to the office, you put all those papers, you and the other business analyst working on it, you put them out on a desk and you distill out of numerous user stories what are the use cases. So remember, a use case is a business process. One use case equals one business process. And if your project is a game and you say, well, I'm not doing a business process, yeah, but your game is still doing something which is giving value to the user. If it wasn't giving user value, why are you doing it? So it might be you present an image to a user for 3 seconds. You present 10 images. I had one student once who did a game. She was really interested in art, so she wanted to make an app to teach people to recognize great pictures, in art history, famous pictures. So it would show the user 10 paintings and give them some information about each one, and then the next screen they'd be presented with either a description, they had to match it up to the picture, or the picture they had to match it up to the description, right? That's not strictly speaking a business process, but it is a business process in the context of our game because that was the delivery of value to the user. So anyway, that's something you have to understand. Oh yeah, so if you were to do, and I've had students who've done it and it's great and it looks fabulous on your resume, because employers are not used to seeing new graduates trained in unified process. Usually you get it if you work for a large company and if you're there for several years and they want to invest in you. So it is not a commonly available thing for new graduates to have been exposed to this, which is, those of you who want to get a little advantage, this is a good way to get it. So a full unified process implementation, I interview my users, my clients, my people who want the system working. I get their user stories. I distill them down into use cases. Remember, what's a use case? One unique path of interaction through the system, start to end, and it delivers value, right? So it has some value delivery at the end in terms of delivering the actor's goals. What do I do with my use cases? Next step is I forward generate them into what's called UML, or Unified Modeling Language Entities. And again, I'm happy to work with people individually, not during our regular class hours because it's not on the course outline, so I can't do that. I will set up additional classes during times when everybody's available. And the way you get your UML, and they could be called UML objects, but I prefer to call them UML entities because object could make confusion with the concept of a programming language object. So we look at our use cases, and then we look for nouns, thing words, and verbs or action words. And then we see how we can turn our nouns into basically like a noun would become an artifact or an object within a UML, and a verb would become an action, would become a scenario within the UML. And then from there, once you have your UML, it's very easy to forward generate it to a programming language such as Java. In fact, there are tools like Rational Rows and Visual Paradigm. If you do a very properly constructed set of UML diagrams, you can click a button and it'll generate the skeleton for your Java code. You still have to go and do the method implementations, but it will generate the skeleton. And it takes care of a lot of the sort of detail, a lot of the drudgerous work of programming a system, coming up with things like meaningful variable names and meaningful method names, because they come directly out of your user stories. So your user is now seeing things written in the language they're familiar with doing it in. Unlike in the old days, before the 1990s when this was developed, 1980s and previous, who came up with the requirements and the stories? The software developers, who generally didn't really know anything about the business. And then they would spend, and you may have heard these stories that, a bank or something or a government agency spent $10 million on a software system and nobody used it because it was unusable, because it was written in a language that the users did not have any concept of what it meant. And I don't mean language like Java or C#. I mean language in terms of the names of things on the screens and the names of the fields and all that stuff. So user stories become use cases become UML diagrams, and UML diagram has nouns and verbs. So, and they also have names, right? The names of the business processes they're implementing. What are the three qualities of an object, meaning an object in the sense of a programming language object? It has a unique ID, so it has a unique identity and name, and it has data, which is data fields, which is nouns, and it has verbs, which is methods. So that's why you can, in a very kind of, I'm not going to say automated, but in a very structural and well proceduralized format, you can go directly from user requirements to the software that you generate, and all of the names of things in your software artifacts, the names of the fields. And there's another entire thing I'm not even going to do in this video because it's already running too long. There's another thing you can do in terms of generating your screens, which, on the web or on mobile app, that's a big issue, to generate meaningful screens. And I know at IBM, once we spent $200,000 to have consultants to come in and analyze our learning services website. That's where I worked. And they talked about taxonomy and nomenclature. And now you don't have to have outside experts coming in to do that, because if you use Unified Process, you're already naming things and you're creating organizational schemas that are familiar with your users because it's coming directly out of their user stories. And if anybody asks, I'll do another training on user interface prototyping. But I don't want to do it if nobody's interested in it, so you get to me and let me know if you want that. Anyway, so watch this video, read this PowerPoint, and I will spend as much time writing something just because I'm so excited about you guys learning this stuff, especially now with current situation. You really need every edge you can get, and I am very excited for you to learn this stuff. So if you want to take this and apply it to your project, you don't have to, but I think it would be very good for those of you who desire to go and get paid doing this for a day job. Anyway, get back to me and let me know if you want more information on this. See you later. Bye.
Тра-ля-ля, вздумал деревню гурьбою делить, а старая старуха смех приветлива была, дочку Маруську с собою вела. Эх, тра-ля-ля, дочку Маруську с собою вела. А старый старик свое дело смекнул, старую старуху он локтем толкнул. Эх, тра-ля-ля,